Just like that, the Princess of Wales announced to the world that she has beaten cancer and is now in full remission. The Grand Hall went silent. Every guest froze, because what was supposed to be Camilla's evening had just transformed into something nobody inside those palace walls will forget anytime soon. Senior royals stared, jaws dropped quietly, and Catherine moved through it all with the kind of effortless authority that left insiders whispering long after the night ended. When cameras caught the expression on Camilla's face, the internet went into overdrive. So was this simply a powerful royal moment or a carefully timed statement that
Spoke of
reshuffled
their
everything?
plans for the
Drop
royal
your thoughts
cellars
below.
and
Now
their
let's get into
influence over
every detail. Catherine's grand entrance. Long before Catherine stepped through the doors, the banquet hall was already humming with anticipation. Dignitaries, aristocrats, and palace insiders filled every corner beneath the glow of enormous crystal chandeliers. The event had been planned precisely to spotlight Queen Camilla. Every arrangement, every seating position, every ceremonial detail designed to reinforce her authority as the reigning queen. Then, Catherine arrived. The shift was immediate, though it started quietly. Conversations trailed off mid-sentence. Heads turned without people quite realizing why. Camera operators moved almost on instinct, and then people noticed what sat atop her head, and the room's energy changed completely. Catherine had not simply dressed for a formal dinner, she had dressed like a message. The tiara she wore was no ordinary piece of jewelry. It carried direct connections to Queen Elizabeth and the enduring memory of Princess Diana, two women who defined entirely different but equally powerful chapters in royal history. In the world of the British monarchy, a tiara is never just decoration. Every stone carries a story, every appearance is deliberate, and Catherine's choice communicated more without words than most speeches could achieve in an hour. What made the moment land even harder was the emotional weight embedded in that single piece. Royal enthusiasts worldwide have long understood that certain jewels mark entire eras. Queen Elizabeth's pieces symbolized unshakable continuity. Diana's choices transformed royal fashion into a global conversation. Catherine appeared to merge both legacies simultaneously, projecting Diana's warmth alongside Elizabeth's quiet discipline. For many observers inside and outside the room, this was no longer simply the Princess of Wales walking through a doorway. It felt like a glimpse of the monarchy's next chapter walking into the present. And while all of this unfolded around her, Camilla, the woman who technically outranked everyone in the room, seemed to shrink slightly within her own evening. It was not a question of elegance. Camilla carried herself with composure. The issue was that Catherine drew the room's gravity toward herself without any visible effort, and no amount of formal rank could redirect it. Palace photographers reportedly followed Catherine's movements throughout the night at a noticeably higher rate than anyone else. Social media lit up within minutes, flooded with side-by-side images. Several commentators openly suggested Catherine radiated more queenly energy than the queen herself. And that observation, floating across millions of screens, may have been the evening's most significant turning point. Because royal power has never been a simple matter of titles engraved on official documents. It lives in perception, in presence, in the ability to make an entire room hold its breath the moment you walk in. Catherine did exactly that. Body language analysts noted the contrast developing through the night. Camilla's
Spoke of
expression
their
tightened in
plans for the
certain
royal
moments.
cellars
Catherine's
and their
remained
influence
composed, open, almost serenely comfortable under the weight of everyone's attention. The palace itself seemed to be quietly pointing somewhere, but what happened after that entrance may have been even more revealing, because the reaction from senior royals that followed left insiders genuinely stunned. The room turns, the royal court shifts its focus. What had begun as a formal state celebration quietly became something far more uncomfortable for Queen Camilla as the evening progressed. Inside palace settings where every glance carries diplomatic weight and every repositioned camera tells its own story, the shift became impossible to overlook. The room's collective attention had moved, not gradually, but decisively, and it had moved toward Catherine. Photographers gravitated toward her naturally. Diplomats sought her out first. Guests whose eyes should have drifted toward the Queen instead found themselves watching the Princess of Wales across the room. Royal protocol was theoretically clear about who held the highest position, but public fascination operates on entirely different logic, and on this particular night, Catherine held it completely. Fashion commentators began dissecting her appearance within the first hour, her gown, her tiara, but most of all the quiet self-possession she projected through every interaction. Royal watchers observing from outside the room pointed out that guests appeared visibly more animated when Catherine approached them than when Camilla entered their vicinity, and the behavior of senior royals nearby spoke volumes without a single word being spoken. Catherine moved through the court with complete ease, greeting heads of state and distinguished visitors as though she had occupied that central role for years, rather than standing in line for it. No hesitation, no performance of confidence, just a settled, natural authority that filled the space around her. The contrast sharpened through the night. Camilla maintained her public composure with practiced skill, but royal commentators reviewing footage later pointed to small but telling moments, a tightening around the eyes, an expression that shifted when the cameras once again found Catherine at the center of another wave of attention. Social media accelerated the narrative rapidly. Clips spread with thousands of comments praising Catherine's presence, her poise, her unmistakable future queen energy. Some viewers directly questioned whether Catherine had quietly become the monarchy's true public face, regardless of what any official title said. Others noticed that the energy inside the room seemed to amplify specifically around her, as if the palace itself was responding to her presence differently than to anyone else's. What made all of it so striking was that Catherine never appeared to pursue any of it. No dramatic gestures, no calculated moments designed for cameras. Her influence came entirely from composure, presentation, and that rare and indefinable quality, the ability to command a room simply by existing within it. In the long history of the British monarchy, that kind of presence has consistently outweighed formal rank in the court of public opinion. But beneath the photography and the global attention, another layer of the story was beginning to take shape, one rooted far more deeply in royal history than a single evening's headlines. The comparison that refuses to disappear. For decades, the name of Princess Diana has functioned as a kind of unofficial measuring stick inside royal circles, an almost mythological standard against which every prominent royal woman has quietly been assessed. Her capacity for genuine emotional connection with ordinary people, her instinctive command of fashion as symbolic communication, and the sheer global force of her presence made her something the monarchy had never quite produced before and had never quite recovered from losing. For years, it seemed like a comparison that could never truly apply to anyone else. And then the whispers began, quiet at first, then louder, and now widespread. The name people keep reaching for is Catherine. What drives the parallel is not simply appearance, though observers note the visual echoes frequently. It is the feeling Catherine generates in public settings. Like Diana, she doesn't manufacture attention, she attracts it naturally. Whether standing beside world leaders, walking through hospital corridors, or entering a state dinner, she radiates a mixture of warmth and restraint that the public finds deeply compelling. And like Diana, that combination seems to cross cultural and geographical borders without effort. Nothing fuels the comparison more intensely than the jewelry. When Catherine wears pieces directly linked to Diana's legacy, most powerfully the sapphire and diamond pieces Diana made globally iconic, the reaction is immediate and deeply emotional. Social media fills within minutes with parallel images of both women, and the comment sections consistently echo the same sentiment. Catherine carries something of Diana's spirit back into the institution, in a way that feels genuine rather than performed. Inside palace circles, this effect has reportedly been impossible to ignore. Those observing crowd behavior at royal events have noted a quality of excitement surrounding Catherine that veteran royal watchers describe as strikingly reminiscent of the public response Diana once generated. Fashion analysts increasingly position Catherine as the royal figure most capable of maintaining Diana's emotional connection with ordinary people, while simultaneously embodying the structured discipline expected of the monarchy's future leadership. And in that combination lies perhaps the most significant element of Catherine's growing influence. Diana represented humanity and feeling. Queen Elizabeth represented duty and permanence. Catherine appears to be developing a public identity that draws from both, an evolution rather than an imitation, updating what it means to be the face of the British monarchy for an era when public trust cannot be taken for granted. This growing resonance has not been unnoticed by Camilla, and as the comparisons grew louder and more frequent, the signs of tension behind palace walls reportedly became more difficult to conceal. Behind the coordinated smiles, the carefully managed photo opportunities, and the dignified appearances at state functions, something uncomfortable has reportedly been developing inside the monarchy for years, and it centers on a reality that no amount of official protocol can fully neutralize. Catherine's public standing has risen to a level that creates an inherently awkward dynamic for everyone else in the royal family, including the reigning queen. Camilla holds the crown. Her position is constitutionally and ceremonially established, and yet it is Catherine who consistently dominates media coverage, captures the emotional loyalty of the public, and commands global attention without ever appearing to seek it. She rarely delivers lengthy speeches, she does not court controversy, she grants relatively few in-depth interviews, and yet her every public appearance becomes an international story within hours. Royal commentators describe this as a kind of natural magnetism that operates independently of rank, and it is reportedly within that gap between official position and public emotional resonance that frustration has quietly taken root. Several insiders have suggested that Camilla has found the relentless public fascination with Catherine genuinely difficult to navigate. The contrast is made sharper by history. Camilla spent years under intense public criticism, controversy connected directly to Diana's memory and the circumstances of the royal marriage that preceded Charles and Camilla's own. She worked to rebuild her public image steadily and persistently over decades. And yet, Catherine appeared to step into widespread public affection almost from her earliest appearances as a working royal. Youth, elegance, grace, and an instinctive relatability forming a combination that required no rehabilitation and generated no controversy. The difference becomes most visible at major royal events. Cameras follow Catherine at a noticeably higher rate. Fashion headlines center on her within minutes of her appearance. Online conversation orbits around her expressions, her interactions, her choices, while other senior royals, including the Queen, recede into secondary coverage. International media outlets frequently position Catherine as the central figure in royal coverage, regardless of who technically holds the higher institutional rank. For someone who waited as long as Camilla did to finally occupy the Queen's position, enduring public hostility and media skepticism along the way, watching the public's emotional attention effectively skip ahead to the next generation must carry its own particular weight. And the most difficult dimension may be this: Catherine's influence cannot be managed through publicity strategies or institutional positioning. It does not come from campaigns or carefully placed stories. It comes from presence, from the widespread perception that she embodies what people want the monarchy to represent going forward. That perception only intensified after each recent state appearance, where viewers openly stated that Catherine looked more suited to the crown than the woman currently wearing it. But while public attention remained fixed on that dynamic, a more significant development was quietly taking shape behind palace doors, one driven not by public sentiment, but by the monarch himself. Charles makes his move. Inside the British monarchy, genuine power rarely announces itself. It does not hold press conferences or issue formal declarations beyond those already scripted by centuries of protocol. Real shifts in the royal hierarchy are communicated through access, through which individuals are trusted with which responsibilities, which symbolic objects, and which ceremonial positions. Those paying close attention have increasingly noticed a pattern developing around Catherine that royal analysts believe points towards something deliberate and consequential. King Charles appears to be quietly elevating her. The signals are not dramatic. There has been no restructuring of official titles, no public statement redefining her role within the royal family's formal hierarchy. The shift is being communicated in the language the monarchy has always used most effectively: symbolism. Catherine has been appearing with increasing frequency at the highest profile state occasions. More significantly, she has been seen wearing jewels of extraordinary historical importance, pieces connected directly to Queen Elizabeth's reign and Princess Diana's legacy. In royal tradition, the decision about who is trusted to wear which historic piece is never casual or cosmetic. It reflects deliberate judgment by the monarch about which individuals deserve to carry that weight of symbolism in public. Every such decision carries an implicit message about trust, about future